The Radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
Hey everybody, let me just, we've got a small problem here. Let me just try to get it going. Always something in this land of YouTube streaming and podcasting and everything. There's always some little issue comes up. Let's see if we can make this go live. Come on. All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this, I don't know what day it is. It's Monday. It's Monday today. My life is not regulated enough so that the day of the week actually sinks into my consciousness. It seems like weekends, middle of the week, I'm working about the same. I hope you're all having a good beginning of the week. I certainly am. And start traveling. I start traveling soon. Wednesday, I fly to New York, and basically I'll be traveling from Wednesday, whatever the date is, until February 16th, I think. So I'll be back home February 16th. I'll be back home in the middle for a couple of days home and then off again. But generally, I'm going to be on the road for the next month. I'm not sure about when exactly we'll do shows. Certainly when I'm home, I'm going to be in California for a little while. So I'll try to do one or two shows from California, although I gave away my computer over there, so we'll have to figure out how to get all this, how to get everything set up without a computer. And anyway, it should be it'll be interesting to see how many shows I can get in while I'm traveling. But we will do that. I'll be in, I'll be in New York, I'll be in Connecticut, I'll be in Southern California, Northern California. Then I come back and I'll be in Miami for a few days, and then I come back, and then I'll be in Europe. I'll be in London, I'll be in Edinburgh, I'll be in maybe Finland, I'll be in Northern England, and I'll be back in London, and then Warsaw, ending in Warsaw. So 3 conferences you should be aware of if you're in the area. Please come. There's an Ayn Rand Institute conference in Orange County on Saturday, this coming Saturday. Then there's one in San Francisco the following Saturday. So if you're anywhere nearby, please join us. An Ayn Rand Institute conference in Orange County, and then in San Francisco. You can find information on these at the AynRandInstitute.org/events. And then there's the major conference in Poland, in Warsaw, on February 15th and 16th, which I will be speaking at. And you can find information about that conference also on the Ayn Rand Institute website. So hopefully I'll get to meet some of you and speak to you. All right, there's a lag, there's a syncing issue between video and audio. Is that just for Daniel, or is that other people are experiencing that? Not that I know what I can do about it. Jennifer has a lag too. Yeah, I don't know what to do about it. Maybe it'll correct itself. One would hope that it would correct itself. I'm trying to see if the lag is in OBS. No, I mean it doesn't look like there's a lag in my software. All right, everybody has a lag. So I'm going to look funny today. Facebook is there. Facebook too. There's a lag in Facebook too. I wonder if it is in OBS after all. Yeah, I'm not sure what to do about it. And starting over, getting worse. Can you relaunch session? No, that would be terrible if I had a relaunch session. What can we do here? Okay, let me do this. Stay online a second. Let me try this in you, taking you offline. Let's try to online you. All right, let's see. All right, if anybody on YouTube, if you can see this, if it's better, let me know. Is there a chat? Is it on? You can see me. Is the issue gone away, or is it still there? Yeah, it says the video is dropping frames. I mean, as many of you know, we've been having issues here in Puerto Rico with electricity and with all kinds of other stuff. So video freezes, then resumes. Sound is good, same as before. Lags. Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's a video issue. It is what it is. It's probably got to do with all the problems we've had. It could be that the internet service provider, it could be that the speed has been reduced significantly, or they're having some problem just feeding the feed out. So hopefully this will not cause a complete drop. Maybe even it'll get a little bit better. Who knows? Sound is fine, which is most important, is that you hear what I says. Somebody asked if I've learned Spanish living in Puerto Rico. No, I have not. Maybe these are the Spanish gods punishing me for not having learned Spanish, in spite of the fact that I live in Puerto Rico. All right, let's get going. Enough of this wasting time on technology. All right, so today's a pretty depressing topic, but I think an important one, and maybe one that kind of lies at the foundation of a lot of other topics we've discussed on this show in the past, whether it has to do with the alt-right or the nihilist right, or whether it has to do with tribalism or tribalism both on the left and on the right. And that is, and I hope to show you the connection as we move forward. But the issue is this. The United States over the last few years, and we have data from up until 2017. We don't have 2018 and 2019 data yet. But the trend is that since 2014, life expectancy in the United States has actually been in decline. And that is quite shocking for, you could have a one-year blimp, but for 3 years, given our advanced technological state, given the culture in which we live, given the expectation that have really, the expectation of being created over the last 120, 30, 40, 50 years of life expectancy increasing from year to year, which is what we saw in the 20th century. It's kind of shocking that in the first decade or the second decade of the 21st century, we're seeing a real decline in life expectancy. And we're seeing the decline in life expectancy primarily among people in the ages of 25 to 65. So, child mortality is at all-time lows. People who reach the age of 65 are living longer than they've ever lived before. It's reaching 65, which is hard, particularly if you are 25. So it's even more severe, 35 to 65, and it's really at its height in terms of unusual deaths, if you will, at the 35 to 55 level. Now, much of this is caused by the so-called opioid crisis, the use of opioids, the use of more, deadly forms of opioids, fentanyl and others, that has hit the United States. But one has to ask, why do we have an opioid crisis? Why are people using opioids? And I've seen a lot of explanations. Well, the drug companies were pushing it. Well, it's some of the changes in Medicare and Medicaid where they started pushing pain relievers on people, primarily opioids for pain relief. Well, others are saying it's as expected, it's the Chinese fault. They're the ones who came up with fentanyl, or they're the ones who've been exporting fentanyl to the United States, and they've been pushing the fentanyl, and it's all the Chinese fault, which is always convenient to blame the Chinese. But then you have to also ask the question of why is the opioid crisis concentrated in certain regions in the country? Why are those regions also seeing a concentration of suicide, concentration of death by alcohol, death from kidney failure, and death from overconsumption of alcohol? Why are those areas in the country also seeing increases in mental health problems, primarily depression? And I don't know if you can connect it or not, but we can try. Same areas in the country which have seen a huge increase over a longer period of time, of course, in obesity rates. So there is a portion of this country which is seeing significant increases in deaths from a variety of sources, primarily opioids, alcohol, suicide, but also just lack of being healthy, which I think obesity is a good proxy for. Now, these results were published for the first time in 2014 by a couple of economists, and since then there have been a lot of studies, and economists have looked at this, and so scientists, they're trying to explain it, they're trying to figure it out. What is exactly going on with people in middle age who have, in a sense, given up in life, either given up in life in the form of taking drugs, or given up in life in the form of overconsumption of alcohol, or given up on life in the form of committing suicide, or just treating life, I would say treating their own life badly by being obese. Now, I'm not saying everybody who's obese is doing it for that reason, any more than I'm saying that anybody who uses drugs is doing it for that reason, particularly opioids. You might have got hooked on opioids because you were trying to reduce pain. You might have become obese because of some medical condition. There are lots of reasons, but there's a certain percentage where the causes are similar, and we're going to try to analyze the causes. Now, it's interesting because some economists have looked at this and also found that there's a high correlation between increased mortality in middle-aged and unemployment, but not just any unemployment, but basically the downsizing in manufacturing. So it happens that the states that experience the most increase in death rates are states in the Midwest, industrial states, states that have seen a significant decline in manufacturing. The worst states are Ohio and West Virginia, Maine and New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, Indiana, Kentucky, Maryland, also New Mexico and South Dakota, although you'd have to filter out the data for New Mexico and South Dakota to see how many of those were, and the same, by the way, North Dakota is pretty bad, how many of those are related to the American Indian problem, the indigenous Indians, because that is a huge problem, and suicide rates and alcoholism among American Indians is through the roof. So a lot of this, some of this has been attributed to loss of manufacturing jobs, and I think there's some truth to that. We'll talk about why that is and what those losses of jobs have created. It's certainly correlated with education. That is that education, it's much more prevalent among those who do not have college degrees. Much more prevalent among those who do not have college degrees. I haven't seen any signs, so there's a question of divorce, fatherlessness, welfare dependency, declining childbirth, and obesity. I mean, I haven't seen any research about the relationship with divorce, although most of the people who are committing suicide, and even with the opioids, loneliness is described as a big issue. And it's not clear that it's divorce. It could be that they never married, because marriage rates in the United States are declining dramatically. By the way, divorce rates are declining. So the number of divorces, particularly among young people, are declining. Among people over 50, divorce rates are increasing. So it's all of these factors that you're mentioning: divorce, fatherlessness, although I don't know how big of a role fatherlessness plays. Welfare dependency, we'll talk about, definitely I think plays a role. Declining childbirth, maybe, it's not clear. It's probably not a cause, it's probably more of a symptom. And obesity, I think, is a symptom, again, of the same problem. Somebody else says, isn't it ironic that the West once devastated China by selling them opium? Now China exports fentanyl to the West. It does export fentanyl to the West, but that's not what's killing Americans. Why do we use fentanyl? That's not, this idea of blaming the Chinese is absurd to me. And again, even when the Europeans were exporting opium into China, the question is, why were the Chinese so eager to use opium? And there are cultural causes for this, and the cultural causes are what is interesting. Not the dynamics of flow, right? The dynamics of flow between people, not the dynamics of flow, if you will, of drugs. By the way, YouTube, is there? Are you getting any video? Only audio now. I'm not sure. Video does seem frozen. I'm not sure why. All right. I would suggest refreshing your browser. Somebody writes, legalizing drugs. Yes, I'm fine with. I think all drugs should be legalized, and I think the FDA is partially responsible for the opioids crisis, because non-opioid painkillers, research into that has been in decline dramatically because of the FDA, because of the costs associated with it, because of everything associated with the FDA. You're getting 1 frame per second. This is driving me nuts. Yeah, it could very well be the service in Puerto Rico, being super slow, and that's what it looks like. It looks like internet in Puerto Rico is just gone to hell. All right, I apologize for the. I'm getting really, really slow internet. I usually get, and what I should do is, oh my God, I should restart my my internet server. Upload speeds are a little bit better than download speeds, but still pathetic. Usually I have, because I have fiber into the building, usually the fiber, I have really, really high speed. So we'll just keep going on audio, and you'll have to forgive the fact that the video just sucks. Are you anywhere else? What the hell does that mean? Are you anywhere else? I don't know what that means. All right, so we've got a phenomena of high death rates, and high suicide rates, and high drug use, and high alcohol use, and what's another part that's interesting here, just to give you a sense of this. Again, this is all kind of in the middle of the country phenomena. It's in the flyover states, with the exception of New England, very high in Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont, maybe the more industrial parts of New England. But the only states that have actually an improving mortality rates, well, actually only 2 states, and that's California and Wyoming. And I think there are reasons for that as well. So let's try to answer this. What is causing this? And I think this is all related to the popularity of people like Jordan Peterson, I think this is all related to the fact that that you're seeing a rise in tribalism and in nihilism and in everything else. I think what we're seeing in America today, and I think this is true across different societies, it's manifesting itself in the United States in the form of higher death rates, and in the rest of the West, I think it manifests itself differently. But you're basically seeing in the United States people losing meaning, losing purpose, losing friendships, losing love, losing community. There is truly a real rise in lack of purpose, lack of meaning, lack of knowing what to do with your life, lack of knowing what to do with your life, who to listen to, who to hang out with. Marriage is falling apart. People are not getting married, or they're getting divorced. They're not having kids. They're not. Community life is taking a big hit. But the big issue is people don't have the tools to know how to live. People don't have the tools to know how to live. Everybody needs guidance. We need values. We need morality. We need a code of principles to help guide our life, to help sustain us, to help figure out what we should do, what's right and what's wrong, what's good for us, what's bad for us, how to live. And we need it, in a sense, at any level. It is a true human need. It is a human requirement that we have some principles by which to live. And it used to be, because it used to be in the old days, that religion served that purpose. Now, I don't think it served that purpose very well, but it served a purpose. Ayn Rand talked about religion being a primitive form of philosophy. Religion told individuals what to live for. It told individuals how to live. It gave them a code of ethics, a code of morality. It told them what goodness meant, what evil was, that they would be rewarded if they were good, if they would be punished if they were bad. It gave them a framework by which to look at life, to observe it, to figure out what was good and what was bad, what was right and what was wrong. And much of life was centered around this religion, whether people took the actual religious teachings, the mysticism, seriously. I doubt it. Americans were never super religious in the sense of actually acting on it. It provided guidance. And the culture more broadly, was a culture that saw meaning in religion, purpose in religion, in some form of religion, in whatever unserious way they took it. So, the loss of religion, without it being replaced by anything, without it being replaced by an alternative secular philosophy to guide people. No. What religion is being replaced with is nothing. And there's no, if you look at survey after survey after survey, what you find is people are less religious, they're less committed to their religion, they're less, if they are religious in the sense of believing in God, they're not religious in the sense of belonging to a particular denomination or taking the religion seriously in a particular form. So people take their religious today less seriously. They go to church less. It's less formal. In other words, it's giving them less guidance. Now, in an ideal world, religion would be replaced by philosophy, replaced by intellectuals who provide guidance, by intellectuals who help people identify what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong, by whatever standard they come up with. I'm not here saying that it has to be objectivist intellectuals. It has to be somebody providing some guidance. Now, the guidance might be bad, as I think ultimately the guidance of religion was bad. But by the time you discover that, it's late in life, and it's completely integrated. And in the meantime, it's provided you with some motivation, some focus, some meaning, some purpose. So what do the intellectuals today offer as replacement for religion? Well, nothing, mostly. Nothing. Oh, don't judge. There's no right, there's no wrong. Everything's gray. There is no right way to live, there's no wrong way to live. Anything goes. There are no standards. So the moral guidance that people receive is empty. Empty. I mean, be nice to other people, help other people. Kind of altruism, light. But no, you're living for a purpose. You're going to be rewarded if you're good. You're going to suffer if you're bad. No. What's presented today is nothing matters. Goodness is not rewarded. I mean, go define good. Evil is not punished. Go define evil. Life is just is. There is no coherent message conveyed by educational institutions, by our intellectuals, that provides people with guidance on what to do with their lives. Is career important? Is having a job good? Are relationships important? Is sex good or bad? I mean, at least Christianity said something about there's a standard. You know, you shouldn't have sex before marriage, but after marriage it's wonderful. You know, there's certain standards. Standards help. Guidelines help people. And now that's all out. There are no standards, there are no guides. Even mediocre guidelines, even bad guidelines, they don't generate happiness. But they can generate purpose. They can generate something for people to do, something for people to focus on as they live. But when everything is gone, when all you have is floating, when you're told there's no right and when there's no wrong, there's no good, there's no bad, when you're told you shouldn't judge other people, you shouldn't judge what's right, you're left empty. You're left drifting. You're left with nothing. And then you're told, since the 1980s, Americans have been told, you're losing your jobs, the economy's going to hell, the rich are getting richer at your expense, the Chinese are taking over. It was the Japanese in the 80s, now it's the... You're giving no guidance. You're told that your world is coming to an end, that your jobs are being taken away, that there are bad guys out there that will not be punished for their badness, who are getting away with everything. Right. So, why am I wearing these? So we live in a world in which there's no moral guidance. There's no guidance on how to live. There's no guidance on what to do. Generally, people are pessimistic. We're told things are going to hell. We're told there's no future in work. There's no future in the U.S. economy. We're destined to stagnate. We're told that it's hopeless. Now, death rates are not increasing among educated Americans. Death rates are not increasing among, I'd say, Americans who have jobs in growing industries, in growing places. Death rates are not increasing significantly in Texas or Washington State or Oregon, and they're actually getting better in California. But that industrial heartland, that area where, yes, that has gone through massive transition over the last 40 years, where people have felt real existential angst, that's when you need the guidance. I mean, you need guidance every day and every moment of your life, but you certainly need some guidance when things are turning upside down, when you're losing your job, when you can't predict, you can't see what the future holds for you. You can't see anything positive. And people give up. It becomes hopeless. They turn to drugs, they turn to alcohol. And their lives become miserable. Many of them commit suicide. So, the tougher the economic environment is, again, the more guidance, help, assistance, spiritually, ideologically, morally, people need. And the less they get of it. Now, so what are we teaching people, particularly when they're in school, particularly when they're young? What is it? Or put it the other way, what is it going to take for people facing difficult situations? And if you're an Ohio steelworker, or a Michigan auto worker, or in any of these industries, life has been difficult the last 40 years. What do you need in order to survive and to thrive in such an environment? Well, more than anything, you need self-esteem. You need self-esteem. You need the knowledge that you will cope. You need the knowledge that you are capable of and worthy of coping and succeeding and being happy. And yet, for the last 50 years, we've been undermining kids' self-esteem. We've been rejecting the idea that achievement is associated with self-esteem. We've been rejecting the idea that self-esteem is meaningless. On the right, you get people, there's some videos on Prager University that say, there is no such thing as self-esteem, or self-esteem doesn't matter, who cares about self-esteem? And on the left, you get people saying, ooh, everybody should have self-esteem, and you get self-esteem from others, and you need to be patted on the back. But self-esteem comes from taking your life seriously. It comes from challenging yourself at whatever level you live on. It comes from valuing. But all of those things require, again, they require a set of values. They require an individual who wants to achieve those values. They require morality. You can't get self-esteem without some kind of moral code. And without some kind of moral code that's connected to reality. That's giving you guidance about how to live and how to succeed. And yet, this country is devout, void of a moral code. Our intellectuals have betrayed us. There is nothing out there. So kids grow up not knowing what is right or what is wrong, not knowing what values to pursue and what not to pursue, not knowing what is good for them or what is bad for them, and having no self-esteem, not trusting themselves, and therefore not taking care of themselves, and not having pride in themselves, and not having the confidence to deal with adversity. So when adversity hits them, they don't get in the car, as I've suggested many times to Ohio steelworkers, get in the car and drive to Arkansas to get a job, or drive to Texas to get a job. No, they sit around waiting. And part of that sitting around waiting is because our politicians and our intellectuals and our teachers have told them, oh, we owe you a living. Oh, you deserve a living. Just sit there and wait, and the welfare state will take care of you. And if it isn't, then it's not your fault. It's somebody else's fault. It's the welfare state's fault. So we've created a generation of dependency. It's no accident that you're seeing 2014 would make the people in their 50s, having born in the 60s, the beginning of the war on poverty, the beginning of the welfare state. The welfare state has created this mentality of dependency, this mentality of victimhood. It's not your fault. It's the Chinese. It's not your fault. It's those greedy Wall Street guys. It's not your fault. It's those people in California, those tech guys. It's all their fault. So people lose all interest in life. They're not responsible, and if you go to Sam Harris, and it's not your fault because you have no free will anyway. You can't control your life. You can't control your destiny. Not really, not in any meaningful sense. At the end, we're all just determined. So, no morality. No morality means no self-esteem. No morality means no guidance. No self-esteem means no ability to cope with struggles, no ability to cope with problems. And what you get is, when problems and troubles happen, people start committing suicide, they turn to drugs, they turn to alcohol. I mean, I know so many people who can't handle the world out there, so they drink. Because what drinking does, it obliterates the consciousness, it obliterates your anxiety, it obliterates the world. It dulls your mind. It does two things. It both reduces your pain that you feel because of existence, and it also dulls the only tool you have to deal with existence. So it's self-reinforcing and self-destructive. But people drink. People drink huge quantities. There's a massive relationship, again, between consumption of alcohol, opioids, suicide, and challenges, and the inability to deal with those challenges. And all ultimately boiled down to a lack of self-esteem. And a lack of self-esteem boils down to a lack of moral guidance. I mean, I'd even say that the crisis that we're seeing among young people in America today, one of the crises you're seeing among young people, is, I don't know if you've seen these studies, but study after study after study is showing that young people are having less sex than ever before. And particularly men have lost the desire for sex, the confidence for sex, the motivation for sex. They're staying virgins longer and just engaging in sexual activity less and less. Now, I again would argue that a lot of that probably has to do with a lack of self-esteem. When people interview many of these men, what they have is a lack of confidence, a lack of esteem for themselves. Now, I think this confidence is exacerbated by the fact that women are more confident, which makes men more wary. They need to be even have more self-esteem than in the past in order to deal with women. Because in the past, women were relatively easy to deal with. No, now it's a challenge because women have found themselves. They're more confident. They're more assertive. They're more educated. They go out and work. They don't need your money because they can earn themselves. So the challenge of getting a woman, and this relates to my discussions of men going their own way and incels and all this manosphere and all this nonsense. The real problem is a lack of male self-esteem among men, as women have prospered, relatively speaking. So self-esteem is on decline because morality is on decline, because there's no culture, no sense of morality. Notice that even bad moral codes, like the Christian moral code that I am a huge critic of, have to provide some positive, good guidance. Because otherwise people wouldn't live, wouldn't be successful, and would reject the religion in the end. So, for example, Christians in America, there's a big emphasis on success in life and healthy marriage and not cheating and lying and being productive, the Protestant work ethic. That is positive moral guidance by religion that actually works, in quotes, right? But as that has declined, as that has become unserious, or as Americans have turned away from that, they have nothing to replace it with. And of course, the solution is objectivism. The solution is an objective morality to guide your life, to give you principles by which to live. And objectivism is not a morality for the intellectual, for the high IQ, just for the productive geniuses. Objectivism is a moral code for everybody. Because it gives you the principles by which to live. It gives you the principles by which to decide what is good and what is evil, what is right and what is wrong. And it gives you, it instructs you in choosing your values, in picking them, in creating a hierarchy at whatever level they happen to be, and then going out and achieving them. And as you achieve them, you gain self-esteem. And as you gain self-esteem, you gain the confidence to deal with the world no matter what it throws at you, including when it throws at you lack of a job or loss of a marriage or loss of a job or loss of a... It gives you the confidence to change careers. Again, at whatever level you have, it gives you the confidence to get in that car and drive to where the jobs are. Now, it's true. Not everybody is going to understand the meta-ethics and how you get an is from an ought from an is, and the role of reason and the details of all of that. But they don't need to. What they need is basic moral guidance. They need to understand that thinking is important, that planning, that being rational, that not going by emotion is important. At whatever level you can think, whatever horsepower is there. Don't go by emotion. Don't evade. That's the essence of rationality. Rationality does not require genius. Reason does not require genius. It requires being able to cope with your emotions. It requires facing facts and identifying facts and refusing to be guided by your emotion. And that's available to anybody. And then, as part of that, as a corollary to that, it talks about justice and being productive and having a career and thinking about careers. And yes, if you're a what do you call it, a laborer, a blue-collar worker today, it's hard. It's hard to think about a career because the fact is that most manual labor jobs are going to go away. But if you're thoughtful, if you're rational, then you start thinking about, okay, but which ones are more likely to stay, in which industries are the robots going to take longer to replace people in, and how can I retrain, and how can I find something better? That is the way your mind would work, rather than just sitting in your hands and waiting for the government to give you a solution. So our educational system destroys our capacity for self-esteem. Our intellectuals and our educators do not provide us with guidelines, do not provide us with our moral guidelines of right and wrong. And our politicians provide us with excuses, a victimhood culture, a culture that says, don't worry, sit in your hands and we'll take care of you. A welfare culture that destroys self-esteem all over again because it tells people, you can't take care of yourself. We don't expect you to take care of yourself. We don't want you to take care of yourself. We're going to take care of you. Don't worry, be happy. So, the only way long-term to turn this country around, the only way long-term, to dramatically, not just to turn this particular phenomenon around, but to turn the country around, to turn this country into the country it used to be, a country of individuals pursuing their happiness, optimistic about the future, positive, entrepreneurial, risk takers, pioneers, is to fundamentally change the culture, to change the debate, to change our education, to change our intellectuals, to provide guidance, a vision, a future to people. What's missing is that optimism. And of course, this doesn't just drive suicide and alcoholism and opioid epidemic. It also drives tribalism. Because when people don't have meaning and can't find purpose and lack self-esteem and don't trust their own mind, they're looking for something, to give meaning and purpose to their life. So if they're young, they go online and they get on chat groups or, on whatever, Reddit or whatever, and they get captured by, oh, this is cool. This is engaging. The people here who have crazy ideas. I can do this. This would be fun. And they get into the alt-right. And if they don't have values, and they don't have self-esteem, and they don't have morality, and they don't have a standard, then nihilism is attractive because there's no God, there's no truth, there's no reality, there's no, what the hell, let's blow stuff up, that's fun. And if Trump reinforces to them that, yes, life is miserable, life is pathetic, and it's all the Chinese fault, and it's the Mexicans' fault, and those illegal immigrants are taking your jobs, and they're raping your women, and they're destroying this country, and then, yeah, now I have an excuse. I'm miserable. I'm considering suicide. I'm taking opioids, but now I have hope because if only we got rid of those immigrants and if only we could control those Chinese, then life in America would be back again. So we're selling false hope through tribalism and through fear and through playing on their alienation. So, there are no simple solutions to these problems. And there are no simple solutions. The solution is a philosophical one. The solution is to replace the code of ethics, the code of morality that exists today. And the danger, of course, is a revival of some form of religion, some form of collectivism, some form of guidance. Revival of something to give people purpose. If you think about communism on the left, fascism on the right, they both have purpose. They both have an agenda. They both give you meaning. They both encourage you to strive for something. They engage you. And you saw the rise of communism and fascism in Europe out of the ashes of nihilism and subjectivism and complete rejection of any moral standard. So the danger is, without an objective moral standard, without some rational morality, without some rational guidance, and without self-esteem, what will replace it is some evil form of collectivism or religion. Because people need guidance. They need a framework. They need morality. They need ethics. They really need ethics. And the Nazis had an ethical code. It was a sick one, but there's an ethical code, as did the communists, as did the Christians. And something is better than nothing. And reality does not approve of voids, and right now we have a void. Right now we have a void. Now, I mean, I think the obesity crisis is very similar. People don't care. They don't care about their bodies. They don't care about their health. Their health will be taken care of by Medicare, or the government will take care of their health. Don't worry, be happy, or be fat. And we're not supposed to shame them. We're not supposed to say thin is better than fat, because who are you? By what standard? There is no such thing as morality, the left tells us. And religion is not about taking care of self. So religion isn't telling people to take care of themselves and not become obese. And then the government, these are all the different factors. Then the government is giving them bad nutritional advice. And if you add all that in, what you get is obesity, opioids, depression, suicide, and a declining life expectancy in the United States of America. In the end, it's philosophy. Philosophy drives the world. Ethics drives the world. Bad ethics or no ethics, a void, an ethical void, is where we are today. And again, that void will be filled. And it is likely to be filled by the bad guys, not the good guys. And that is tragic and sad. Okay, let's look at these super chat questions, see. Can anyone who lives off inheritance have self-esteem? Sure they can. I mean, you're still going to have challenges. You're still going to have values. Values that are not monetary. Let's say money is not an issue, because money, you just have it. But you can still achieve certain things at a job, at work, at a career. You can still achieve certain things in your romantic life. You can achieve certain things in your hobbies. You can challenge yourself, push yourself, and you can take your life seriously. In a sense of constantly learning, constantly thinking, constantly figuring stuff out, solving problems, dealing with real issues. It's not like the only issue in life is money. It's not. And if money is not an issue anymore, you know, how to give a great talk, how to write great software, independent of whether they produce revenue or not for you. I mean, the revenue is important because it's a signal for the marketplace to tell you that you're doing something well. Well, I mean, look at all the rich guys, the richest guys in the world, who work unbelievably hard, even though they could be working off of inheritance. All of these guys could retire tomorrow and live forever and never be able to spend all their money. So, no, inheritance, maybe, I mean, inheritance shouldn't matter one way or the other to self-esteem. Self-esteem is, well, what you do with your life in the circumstances that you're in. Rich, poor, inheritance, no inheritance. How do you live your life? What do you do? What are your values? How challenging are they, and how committed are you to pursuing those values? How much do I have to donate to get unbanned from objectivism? I don't think anybody's banned from objectivism. I don't know what that is. And donating, I don't think, well, since there is no banning, I don't know what you're talking about, in other words. All right, we dealt with divorce, fatherlessness. It is ironic that the West once devastated, oh, we did that. Legalize all drugs, we did that. I'm all for legalizing all drugs. I keep seeing articles about raises in minimum wage decreasing suicide, and people buy into it. I mean, of course they buy into it. I mean, the explanation now given for the decline in mortality is the fact that we don't have single-payer health care. Medicare for all will solve the problem. How do they explain California where there's no Medicare for all? By the way, the reason I think states like California do not suffer as much is because of the types of industries that in California. They're forward-looking, they're innovative, they require people to use their mind. And there is a culture in California, as much as you might love to hate California, there is a culture in California of self-improvement, of looking good, of exercising, of taking care of yourself, of being ambitious, of having a career, there really is a culture of go get stuff. And I think that what has instituted that career, that orientation, is not intellectuals or religion or because the intellectuals in California are worse than intellectuals anywhere else. It's business. California, because of Silicon Valley, and this is why I think Silicon Valley is so important to America. Silicon Valley has instilled in Californians a certain sense of optimism, a certain sense of orientation towards the future, a certain sense of confidence in the ability to produce and create anything. A certain sense of the ability. And it attracts the best and the able and people who take their life seriously and people who are striving to achieve. It attracts the ambitious. So the ambitious people in Ohio left and moved to California. And the people left in Ohio, and I'm picking on Ohio because it has the highest of these rates, in Maine and New Hampshire and West Virginia. These are people who are not ambitious for all the reasons we talked about. So what you're seeing is, and now California's mixed, but California's people in their middle age in California are engaged, a significant number of them engaged in growth industries that are prospering and succeeding, and they can see a prosperous future. That's not true in places like the Midwest, the places that used to be industrial, that used to be like California. Now, California is also shrinking population-wise as poor and lower middle-class people leave the state. But California is also healthier generally than the rest of the country because they take care of themselves. And I think that is a consequence of the industries there. All right. So, yes, you're going to see lots of excuses that the left gives for these things, and everything to them is economic, and therefore raising the minimum wage solves these problems somehow. I haven't seen anything legitimate, anything that I would say is legitimate economic science that shows the correlation between the two. You glorify the single-minded pursuit of values by an athlete, but decry it as an addiction in a golfer or video gamer. Why? I thought you liked people striving for perfection and not just for money. I think it's great that you want to be the best golfer that you can be. It becomes an addiction. It becomes something that's unhealthy when it detracts from other parts of your life. If you're a professional golfer, then of course perfection is what you should be striving towards. If golf is a hobby, it's great. If you go out golfing once in a while and you take it really seriously and try to be the best that you can be. But I find that golf and video games tend to be, for many people, not for everybody, tend to be for many people so addictive. They become all-consuming, and they detract from your ability to achieve more important values. For an athlete, that is the most important value. This is his career. But if you're a recreational golfer, it's not your career. And if it detracts from your ability to do your job well, or if it detracts from your ability to find a romantic partner, if it detracts from your ability to actually have a family or to grow a family or to have a healthy family, then it's not good for you. Now, again, I have nothing against golf, and I have nothing against you trying to perfect your golf game. As long as you don't sacrifice higher values for a lower value. Golf is a lower value as compared to career. Golf is a lower value for most people as compared to family. Golf is a lower value as compared to, I think, friendship. So I have nothing against golf. Most of my friends play golf. And I don't have anything against video games unless they become such that they're distracting you from your higher values in life, from the things that are more important. And, you know, that's a challenge in addictive sports, addictive behaviors, because it's sometimes difficult to overcome the emotion of wanting to go play another golf game or wanting to go and play the video game. You know, it's just seductive. And there's nothing wrong with seduction. I'm all for seduction. If it's in the right context, in the context of your hierarchy of values. What would you say to someone who feels so defeated by life in this modern culture of nihilism, frustration, and apathy? How would Rand respond? I would say, don't give up. I would say life is still worth living. That there's so much goodness and there's so much beauty and there's so much joy to be found in this life that it would be horrible to let the bad guys defeat you. You are not, in spite of all the badness, darkness in the world, you are not in a concentration camp. You're not behind the Iron Curtain under communism. There's still massive opportunities to be successful, to enjoy life. There's still enormous number of values, aesthetic values. There's still good people. You're not constrained by not being able to travel and not being able to meet people, not being able to go to conferences, listen to talks. You know, we still have free speech. You can still hear people disagree with the culture. I would say if you are brought down by the nihilism and apathy and frustration, then you're interacting with the wrong people. You're spending too much time on Facebook. You're spending too much time listening to the wrong podcasts or to the wrong YouTube channels. You're spending too much time listening to the news and dealing with politics. Find the values. In other words, find the things that bring you joy. Find the things that you enjoy doing. Find the people that you enjoy. The people that you love. Hang out with them. Who cares about the nihilists? And if you can't find them, look harder. Life is too short not to make an effort. Come to OCON, to the Objectivist conferences. Come to some of these weekend conferences the Institute is holding. See if there are people at these conferences that you might like. Try to go on some of the chat on my show and see if there are people there that you seem to like. Get engaged with other people. Figure out what you want to do in life. Focus on your career. Find people who love the same things you love. Enjoy art. Go find some good movies. Not the depressing, nihilistic garbage that exists today. But the beauty is you can watch any movie ever made. Go look at movies from the 50s and 40s and 30s. Go to museums. Go to concerts. Listen to music. Enjoy. Find a girlfriend. Have sex. Find pleasure. Don't give in to the darkness around you, because the darkness is not real. The darkness is impotent. The darkness is anti-life, anti-reality, anti-existence. Behind it is a beautiful world. Don't listen to all this garbage out there. Go travel the world. Take a year off. Go hitchhike in Europe. You know, go see Hong Kong before it's gone. Go see China. Go see what's happening in places that you've never dreamt of. There are 8 billion people out there, 8 billion people in the world. There's only a small fraction of them that are nihilists. Most of the world is still struggling to survive. They don't have the leisure to be nihilistic. And they're inspiring. Go look at people in China and how hard they work and how vigorous they are in trying to make their lives better. It's inspiring. I find China inspiring in spite of their government, in spite of the controls, in spite of everything. They're focused on making their life better. They're focused on living a life. We've lost it. Life's too comfortable. Who cares? Like we're all an inheritance, right? We're an inheritance of the Enlightenment. We don't have to bother anymore. Go see the world. Get out of your little bubble. Go see America. How many of you have traveled? How many of you have seen America? Seen the variety of different cities, the variety of different cultures, the variety of different scenery. Travel. Meet people. But don't just give in. How is it valid to describe people as driven by hatred? You can't just hate without seeing something threatened that you actually love first. Well, okay, but you can hate for the wrong reasons, right? And you can ascribe the threat to the wrong causes. And the threat might not be real. You can hate Jews because you've told that there's a conspiracy of Jews to take over the world, and that your suffering is caused by them trying to take over the world. Now, none of that is right, including the fact that you don't have to suffer. You can get in a car and go find a job somewhere else. So, yes, hatred is motivated by a perception of something being threatened. But that something might not be real, and the cause of the threat might not be real. And people today are motivated by hatred. They're being told that their lives are under attack, their lives are being threatened, their happiness is being threatened, their jobs are being threatened, their women are being threatened, their country is being threatened. They're being told that there's carnage in the streets of America. They are fearful. And then they're being told who to hate. And unfortunately, people are driven by hatred. Now, there's a deeper sense of hatred. There's a deeper sense of hatred. Some people hate existence. They hate the world. They hate life. Now, why do they hate it? Because they've come to the conclusion that existence, that life, that the world threatens them. Not because they have a positive esteem of themselves, but because they don't. They don't believe they can survive in this world, so they hate this world. They don't believe they can be happy in this world, so they hate this world. They don't believe they can be successful in this world, so they hate this world. And they develop that hatred sometimes from when they're very young. And they are driven by hatred. They are driven by hatred of existence, of other people, of reality, of capitalism, of freedom, of everything, of the world in of itself. It's the kids who want to knock stuff down because the building of stuff is, the best description of this is Ayn Rand's description of Ellsworth Toohey in The Fountainhead. If you haven't read The Fountainhead, you should definitely read The Fountainhead. If you have read The Fountainhead, go back and find where Ellsworth Toohey's story is told. Hatred doesn't have to be as opposed to what? It's as opposed to love, as opposed to satisfaction, as opposed to positive feelings. I love the world. I love reality. I love existence. Or even as opposed to acceptance. Existence is what it is. But hatred at the end of the day is as opposed to love, as opposed to a positive emotion. Many people become criminals because of that hatred. I haven't seen the movie Joker, but I suspect if you see the movie Joker, he hates everything at some point. Nihilists, they hate for the sake of hating because existence is a threat to them. But it's a threat in a weird kind of way because the them is not something they value particularly because they are part of existence. But no, I think there are lots of people motivated by hate. And the hatred is as opposed to love. I love myself. I love existence. I love life. I love lots of things. And indeed, objectivism is to a large extent a philosophy of love. That's the essential characteristic of it. It's a philosophy of love of life, of human life, of yourself. Okay, no more super chat questions. I've got a bunch of them here, and I think many of them are good. Do you think the ability to integrate is open to anyone willing to try? I feel some days as if it can be an impossible task and constantly feel limited by my own mind and ability. Is this something that one can just needs to push through? Is the only barrier self-esteem? I think that not the only barrier self-esteem. I think integration is open to everybody at different levels. Not everybody can integrate at the same level. Not everybody is as good at integration. But integration is open to everybody, but it requires a few things. It requires self-esteem. It requires a certain level of confidence. It also requires purpose. Greg makes a good point about hatred. He says the context of often the source of the hatred, the reason why you hate, often gets dropped or forgotten even. What's left is just the emotional state of I hate, I resent, I'm opposed to, I'm anti. And that's the emotional state that exists while the cause of it, the source of it, the thing that was threatening to you, that becomes less relevant. The context falls away. And then it just appears inside you, not just to the external party, inside you as unmotivated, as just a focused hatred on everything around you. And again, I encourage you to read the Ellsworth Toohey descriptions. Back to integrate. Integration requires a certain self-esteem. It requires a certain confidence in your ability to do it, but it also requires wanting to do it, seeing the purpose. Because if you sit down and say, okay, today I'm doing my 10 minutes of integration, right? That's not how you do it, right? There has to be a purpose. I'm trying to understand this. I want to see how it's connected to these things because I want to understand this bigger point. Because I'm trying to solve this bigger problem. I'm trying to explain this bigger phenomena. So it's got to be motivated correctly, by values again. And then it requires focus. And of course the days that it's days that are hard for all of us. You didn't sleep that well, you're a little distracted by other things that are going on. Some days your mind just seems to be going in slow motion. I mean, all of us have that. So, yes, you have to just go through it, or you skip that day. You say, okay, today I'm not going to try to solve that problem. So the point, I never sit down and I say, okay, today I'm integrating. But when I look at an issue, I always ask the question, what is this connected to? And that issue could be personal. Why is this person behaving this way? What is motivating? How is this connected to other things that I've seen other people act this way? Or how have I seen this person in other situations? Or what is this connected to my understanding of how human beings behave in this context? Or if you see an issue in politics, the left is behaving this way in response to the protests in Iran. How does this connect? Why is that? How is this connected to the left's response to other things? And you just try to connect. You try to see the connections, but in the context of solving a problem, not in the context of I need to integrate now. I find that. I think my strength is integration. I don't know exactly why. I never set out to do it, but it is. And I find that I know few people who are good at integration. And not good at sitting down and doing the integrate, but good at, it's second nature to them. They're constantly connecting things. They're constantly seeing relationship between things. They're constantly connecting, seeing the commonalities, seeing the differences. I don't know what it is, but it requires constantly thinking about the world and constantly seeing connections, but doing it within a particular context, not doing it as an end in itself. Somebody says there's a book called Women Have Better Sex Under Socialism. I don't think that was a book. I think that was a New York Times article, an awful, hideous, evil article that as part of their commemoration of 100 years to communism, to the rise of the Soviet Union. Truly awful. They were trying to find good things about socialism, and one of the things that socialism did, supposedly, this is completely false, is it emancipated women to then have more orgasms, right? Because they were more confident, because they worked and they were out there, which is complete, it's just hideous to associate any of that with socialism or communism. If you say, I want to live the best life possible, isn't that ambiguous? It requires some concrete fundamental end in itself. Contents of what the best is made of. Best life in terms of what? Yes, absolutely. But I can't give you those concretes, right? All I can tell you is you need to live the best life possible. You need to figure out what that means for you, because it is an individual. It is based on your individual values, on what you enjoy doing, what is good for you. I can tell you there's certain principles that will lead you to the best life possible. Basically, the objectivist ethics, following that ethics, using your mind, being honest, having integrity, pride, self-esteem. So following the objectivist ethics is the way to reach the best life possible. But in terms of what does that mean concretely? That means you have to pick a career so that you can take productiveness as a virtue seriously, and that career is going to be different for you and different for me. So I can't tell you which career, but I can tell you that to have the best life possible, you better have a great career. And I can tell you that best life possible, usually involved great relationship with other people, and the primary relationship is with a spouse, somebody you love, somebody you cherish, somebody who is of enormous value to yourself. So the best life possible is to live a productive, love-filled, values-filled life. It's to take love seriously in every aspect of the life. Now again, all of that is an abstraction. But all I can do in providing guidance is give you the abstractions, and then you have to fill them in with concretes as they apply to you, your particular case. You love mathematics, so find a career that is consistent with that love of mathematics. Right? You love hiking, you love that. Go do the things that you love and find the right balance between them. And I can tell you what exactly that balance is, other than to say, make sure that career is at the center of it, because it's going to consume most of your life and most of your mental energy. But some people are not going to be able to do that because they're striving actors or striving performers, and it's going to take them decades to break in, and in the meantime they have to do odds and ends jobs. So their career is more potentiality and something they're striving towards than the reality that they're living in. But that's why your circumstances are going to determine your particular concrete application of this. But make your life the best that it can be is the guide, is the principle by which to live. I want to be happy. Now, you can say happiness is an abstraction. Yes, you have to work to figure out what leads to happiness. And you have to fill that in with the concretes that are necessary. And that's what's missing from our world. What's missing from the world in which people are dying young through basically suicide by drug, by alcohol, or explicitly suicide. What's missing from their world is the striving to live, the effort to live, the ambition to live. Does alcoholism have a role in the pursuit of happiness? Well, no, of course not. Certainly not alcoholism, being addicted to alcohol. I don't think alcohol has much in the pursuit of happiness at all, even not as an alcoholism. Alcohol is tasty. Yeah, it can loosen you up a little bit and give you a bit of a buzz. But let me say this, and for what it's worth. Getting drunk is not a value. Getting drunk is a disvalue. Now, if you get drunk once in a while, once a year, okay, see, big deal. But getting drunk to the point of you don't remember what you did, getting drunk to the point where you don't control yourself, getting point to the drug where it's not just a buzz, where you're throwing up, is a disvalue. It's anti-life. It's anti-values. It's anti-happiness. It's immoral if you do it on a regular basis because you're undercutting your own life. You're destroying your own life. If it tastes good, fine. But to drink to the point where you're not in control is immoral. It's wrong. Again, a little bit of drinking, getting a little bit of a buzz, fine. Getting drunk once in a while because you lost track of how much you drank and but doing it on a regular basis is a sign of major psychological problems and a real issue of morality. And it screws you up. It screws you up. And you have to question, why do I need it? Why do I need the buzz? Why do I need to get drunk? Why do I need to forget? Why do I need why do I need in order to feel emotionally free? Why do I need the alcohol? Why can't I just be free? Why can't I just say what I really mean? Why do I need the alcohol to do it? And I know so many people who change personalities when they drink. Well, if the personality when you're if being more open and being more warm and being more friendly and being more is what you want in life, then go see a therapist and work on doing that while you're not drunk. Again, I'm not going to argue with anybody who once in a while gets drunk in, during the holidays or something. I'm talking about people who do this regularly, and I'm talking about people who need the buzz. I mean, the buzz is nice once in a while, but if you need the buzz, there's something wrong, and it's not moral. Has the welfare state significantly expanded or remained relatively stable since 1965? It's expanded dramatically. 1965 was the birth of the welfare state. There wasn't much of a welfare state at all in 1965. Medicare, Medicaid, and welfare at the federal level were all products of the mid-1960s, and they expanded dramatically since then. All right, let's see. Why do you live from the perspective of living forever? Shouldn't one plan for an actual and realistic lifespan? Sure, you should plan for an actual realistic lifespan. I don't live from the perspective of living forever. But it's somewhat meaningless to plan for. I mean, I noticed that when I turned 50, the way I thought about planning for the future changed. In a sense, when I was young, planning for 50 years seemed like planning forever. When you're 50, you can't plan for 50 years anymore. You start thinking about planning for 20, 30 years. And it changes. It's a different perspective. So I don't think you live forever. When you're young, 50 years is forever. But certainly as you grow older, it becomes more meaningful to plan shorter term, in a sense, to plan for 10, 20, 30 years or less. So I think that living forever is only... Now, let me make this clear. The principles do not change. That is, the principles for living forever are the same principles as living tomorrow, are the same principles as living for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, or whatever. You don't abandon rationality because you've only got 5 years to live. Rationality is the source of your values. Therefore, your source for your happiness in the end. If I give both you and Kyle Kolinsky $100 super chat, will you both be willing to have a debate? I mean, give me a break. $100 of super chat to do what? To have a debate with somebody? I get paid $5,000 to debate somebody. You wanna put up $5,000? Not $100. Now, would I be willing to go and debate Kyle Kolinsky on a public forum if invited and paid? Yeah, sure. I have no problem. Would I be willing to go on Kyle's show and debate him on his show? Sure. But $100 is not serious enough money to motivate me, at least, to do much. Now, I appreciate $100, but to get me to do something different than what I do regularly, it needs to be more than $100. Sorry. But I have no objection in principle to debating Kyle or anybody. The fact is, my guess is that Kyle wouldn't debate me. It's not the other way around. Thoughts on addiction as learning disorder. No, I think addiction is a psychological disorder. Doesn't have to do with learning disorder, as far as I know. It's a question for a psychologist. What is your opinion of Jack Vettriano? Are there any painters from the last 50 years that you are fond of? I don't know Jack Vettriano. There are painters from the last 50 years that I'm fond of. I've collected some giclées of one painter that I like a lot, but other people don't. Other objectivists I know don't. His name is Picard. He's P-A-C-A-R-T. I don't like everything he does, but I like the stuff I have. And he is Spanish. He lives in Barcelona. And I've collected a number of his giclées, and I really like them. Thoughts on big business like Silicon Valley raising cost of living in California and resulting in more homelessness? Oh, my God. That is such a fallacy. It's not Silicon Valley that raises the cost of living. It's politicians who raise the cost of living. It's housing regulations that raise the cost of living. It's green. It's not in backyard mentality that raises the cost of living. It's the fact that in San Francisco you can't build tall buildings outside of downtown for residential. It's the fact that you can't build in green areas. That is what raises the cost of living. Production, value creation, job creation does not in and of itself raise the cost of living. What it does is it raises the demand for living in a particular place. But that demand should be met by supply. So you have to question, why isn't supply matching demand? Because there are restrictions on supply. Zoning, building codes, all the garbage that local governments do. That is what creates a rising cost of living and homelessness in California. Not Silicon Valley. Now, yeah, Silicon Valley creates demand. But then you have to question, why is the demand not met with supply? How do you discover your values? Now, that is a great question. I mean, you have to introspect. You have to sit down and really think about it. You have to make lists of what you love doing. Lists of what you'd like to do that you haven't done that you think you will enjoy doing. You have to make lists of what you like and what you're good at. And then you have to think about what you think is important in life to you. And you have to make sure that integrates with your philosophy in respect to objectivism, with the principles of objectivism. And then you have to do the work of integrating and evaluating. What do I value more? What do I value less? What is long-term? What is short-term? What is just pleasure without great long-term satisfaction? What is long-term satisfaction with some pain, and not so pleasurable. And you have to make lists of all these things and try to integrate them around a few key values like career, like hobbies, like relationships, friendships, like romance, romantic relationships. Okay. And you have to think about, of the things you've listed, which are challenging, which are going to give me the satisfaction of real achievement, or which are just easy and frivolous. Which are going to be all-consuming and which I can do on the side. And you've just got to make those divisions. And then decide, okay, of the 5 career possibilities, this is the one I'm going to pursue. Okay, so I'm going to pursue this. That doesn't leave a lot of time for hobbies. So of the 75 different video games I want to play, what is the one most important one that I have to play that I'm going to use my spare time to do? But oh, wait a minute, some of my spare time is going to have to be devoted to dating because I want to have a good relationship with a woman or a man or whatever, right? Somebody who I can really have a good time with and enjoy and love and have sex with and live with and share with. And oh, I've also got friends, and if I don't have friends, I should cultivate friends, because friendship, I remember the times when I had friends and I hung out with my friends. It was a really good time and it was a lot of fun. And I want to do more of that, so I need to find friends. So I need time for love and I need time for friendship. And I've got this career, so maybe I play a fewer video games. Or maybe I don't play any video games for the next 5 years because I don't have time. Maybe I scrap hobbies. Hobbies are for later. And you work through that. And then, but Yaron also says I should enjoy art. Okay, well, there are times during the day where I can relax a little bit and watch a movie and test out a TV show or maybe listen to some music. Let me try that. Let me see what I like. Let me see what I don't like. Let me see what's worth investing in. Just classical music takes some investing in. It takes some time. But you got to think these through. You got to think these through. And look, if you're an ambitious person, if you're an interesting person, if you're a person, I'll just talk for myself, right? I have a million things I want to do. I've got a million books I'd like to read. I mean, my book list is infinite. I want to do more shows. I want to make money in my hedge fund. I want to meet new people. I want to go speak all over the world. There are a million things I want to do. And I do a lot of different things. But I want to do like 3,000 others, and I'd like to exercise more, and I'd like to play bridge, which is addictive, by the way, and I'd like to learn. I remember a long, long time ago, I used to program, and programming was fun. Should I program? And so you have to prioritize all the time. You have to put stuff aside. You have to say no. In some things you have to say, like programming, I'm never going to do that. I enjoyed it. It was fun. Served its purpose. Not doing it anymore. Right? I mean, I struggle to find enough time to listen to music or to watch movies or to spend time with my wife or to watch our favorite TV shows or all of that stuff. It's challenging. The more interesting a life you live, the more challenging it is. All right. Why do you think video games have the ability to be good art but are not? Games today have incredible worlds and stories to explore. I don't know enough about video games to judge, but given that what I see on TV and movies and everywhere else, why would suddenly video games have amazing stories and amazing art and amazing values and the rest of the aesthetic world doesn't? Maybe, but I'm just skeptical. And I don't know anything about video games, and I'm never going to know because I'm never going to have the time to play them. You fear Victor Davis Hanson's professional motivation could be the military as an arena for national programs. So what? Isn't the military precisely one of the areas that should be run by the government? Professional could be the military as an arena for... I fear that there is a certain segment of conservatives who believe that war, not the military per se, but war, and the military is representative of war, is good for the soul. It's good for a country. It's good for us to come together around. It's good to revive those collectivistic values and emotions. And that's what I fear. Yes, there should be a military. Yes, the military should be taken very seriously. And yes, the military should be admired in the sense that it protects our freedom. But war is a bad thing. War should be avoided. War should only be engaged in self-defense. It should be quick and decisive, and that's it. It shouldn't be something to be obsessed about. The military should be a function of government, that we are an important function of government. Somebody wants to raise $5,000 and pay me to play PlayStation. $5,000 doesn't buy a lot of my time, but okay, we can do that. So it's not that I have a disrespect for the military, quite the contrary. I have a huge respect for the military. I mean, I don't necessarily respect the generals, but I respect the function of the military. It's just that I don't think it should be overplayed, overemphasized as part of a nationalistic, collectivistic cause. It shouldn't be primary. It is the servant of the people, the servant in our need for self-defense. All right. Sorry the video sucked today. Sorry my internet sucks. I'm hoping that as we overcome the earthquakes and the power problems here in Puerto Rico, we get back to normal. I'll be traveling the next couple of weeks. I might do a show tomorrow. We'll see. If the internet sucks like it did today, then I probably won't. So I'll make sure that the internet is better. If it is better, then same time, same place tomorrow. Remember a few things. One, like. All it takes is a little button. Click on that button with the finger up or whatever. Like the show on Facebook, on Twitter, and whatever. Facebook and YouTube. Second, share. Share. That's how we're going to grow this, is if you get this out, because you share and your friends share and somebody else shares. That's how you get to new people. 3, contribute. You can contribute at yaronbrookshow.com/support or on subscribestar/yaronbrookshow. Subscribestar.com/yaronbrookshow. Thank you for all the super chatters. Good questions today. I hope you enjoyed the show. I think there was a lot of important content, and I think content that explains a lot of the political reality that exists today. The collectivists are filling the void in morality, the void in values that exist in our culture today. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you maybe tomorrow, if not later in the week. Bye.